So good morning. I'd like to open this Polk County Board of Commissioners. It's June 22nd, 2022. Extra agendas are on the back table by the entry. Looking for comments not on this agenda. Hearing none. And I should say for the record that we do have Jeremy Gordon is excused today. Commissioner Polk and myself are here. Looking for approval of agenda. So moved. I'll second that. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Approval of minutes from June 15th.
So moved.
I'll second that. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And approval of consent calendar.
Moved.
I'll second that. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. That brings us to resolution 22-06, year-end modification for 2021-2022 budget. Mr. Greg Hansen.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, in your packet is the resolution 22-06, which is the year-end cleanup, as we call it, for the current year fiscal budget that we are in. The modifications and changes recommended in this resolution are trying to ensure that we stay within budget law for the state of Oregon. It mostly has to do with appropriation authority and that. At the end of the year, we have a number of departments that are on the verge of either overexpending their appropriation, or they definitely will. Some come with revenue attached to it. Others is just a reduction in contingency depending on what fund they are in and that. I could go through every one of these, but that's probably a little overkill. We do have a total reduction in the general fund contingency of $210,000. It affects budgets of the clerk, the assessor, emergency management, parks. The parks one is unusual because of the Buena Vista project that we have going that is going to span 2 budget years. This is just to ensure that we have enough appropriation authority for that Buena Vista project for this current fiscal year. Those monies will be reimbursed by the state. How quickly, unknown at this time, but they will be reimbursed. The others involve transfers to the law library, veteran services fund. So other funds that were affected, public works fund. We're going to shift some of the costs associated with the building remodel for public works into their budget. Some of it was not anticipated when we did the remodeling project, so we're going to shift some of those costs. Public Works has adequate monies and reserves, so that will reduce their contingency by about $940,000. Also affected are the shops and Public Works survey. Law library is just covering all the costs associated with the law library. One thing we didn't anticipate last year, we ended the fiscal year with a negative balance in the law library. We're correcting that with this transfer, so we will be in the black rather than in the red like we were at the end of 2021. Public health is just a small cleanup in WIC, and then management services is the other fund. And those are just adjustments to courthouse building maintenance, finance, and personnel with a reduction in our contingency, which is special projects, equipment reserves. So those are the totals of our budget resolution and its modifications. Overall, we have a reduction in the general fund of $210,000. In the contingency, like I said, Public Works contingency goes down 940, Public Health goes down 20, and then Management Services goes down 190. Overall budget will increase by $350,000. Any questions? Tell you more.
I would move to adopt resolution 22-06.
I'll second that. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Resolution passes. Bring this next up, workers' compensation insurance carrier selection. Mr. Greg Hansen.
my show today. Again, in your packet, we have a recommendation for the county's workers' compensation, recommending that we go with SAFE and we utilize the 170% or the 1.7 retro plan as its insurance plan for 22-23. Probably one of the more interesting aspects of this memo and recommendation is you can see our experience rating. Experience rating is calculated basically not the current year you're in, but the past 3 full years you're in with weighted average to the most current. And then I think it goes 50, 30, 20 if you want how it works. But if your experience, most people's experience rating is, you hope, below 1, because if you drop below 1, you're basically getting a discount on your workers' comp. Obviously, at the top of my memo, at the 2014, 2015, 0.63 might be one of the lowest in the history for counties in Oregon. That was magical 3 years of experience, probably never to be seen again. If you get into the point, if you get into the 7s, you're incredible, but 0.63 is unheard of. You can see though that this year we're dropping from 0.87 down to 0.84, which is a positive thing. It means our overall rating, if it was $100,000, would be $84,000 for us. You would get basically a 16% discount based on our experience modification. The 170 for the 1.7 retro that I'm recommending, this was probably the most difficult year I've had in choosing whether it's a 170 retro or a fixed cost. I did this spreadsheet just at the very end of my memos and that to show what we've experienced basically over the last 12 years. And if we had used a retro over those 12 years, we would have saved about $330,000. So we've done well. We've been retro for almost 20 years at least. But the shaded gray are years that we would have lost money. Our gamble wouldn't have paid off. And then the other 7 years are positive results for us. Then down below that, I kind of show you how, if you looked at 10 years, you'd have probably saved about $70,000 over those 10 years. If it's 7 years, you would have paid about $7,000 more. Last 5 years, you would have saved about $80,000. Last 3, you would have saved about $90,000. So I still recommended it, the retro, but it's getting tighter as the discounts get bigger for the fixed rate that SAFE provides. So if you want to be conservative, not want to have to think about it, we go with the fixed plan. And I'm almost there, but I wasn't this year. I asked Caitlin just on the side what she would do. The CPA and me are risk averse, so we would take the fix. But me personally, I would go with the retro. So it's one of those, you're right on the edge of, is it worth the savings you might get or not? So if you choose as a board to go with the fixed plan, I completely understand. But right now, I'm still recommending the retro.
So what's our exposure? What does it look like if we have a 1.3 type of a year in experience mod? For a year that would put us there over that 3-year study.
You'd always go fixed, but those costs would be a lot more.
But what's the difference, Greg, between the fixed insurance and the 1.7 retro? And if I'm betting against us, how different is our exposure in the retro plan versus fixed? Is it any different at all?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
So
We still end up having to pay additional beyond premium. We have to pay exposure.
What you're basically doing is raising your upper end risk 70% above what your normal cost would be without discounts. So you could be risking up to $400,000.
On retro.
Yep. If you had a max, I mean, and we've never reached it yet, but we've had one year where it was significantly bad with the rollover.
Car crash, yeah. That's the scenario that I continue to look at over and over.
So it only takes one. I mean, and it has to be a bad one. If it's,
It can happen any day.
right. Yep. We would have been, for example, our claims this year would have been in the 20,000 that we had in defensive tactics. Our community corrections person break their ankle. That put almost $60,000 worth of, and part of it's reserves, so you don't know the future cost, but those get calculated in once they get paid and all that. So it takes one catastrophic or a bunch of significant ones. For us to lose money, we would have to have claims that are almost $140,000. So, and we rarely have that, but we've been over. And it's a risk, and like I said, this is the hardest year. Beforehand, it was a no-brainer for me. Even though we might lose 1 or 2 years overall, we were more ahead than not. And as you can see on the 12-year one, if I went back 15, we'd probably be up 500,000. I mean, things are getting more expensive, so claims cost you more, period. And, I think people understand the system a little better. So, like I said, I wrestled for 2 days deciding on whether to recommend the retro or not. So, like I said, if you choose to go the fixed, it's not a bad choice. It really isn't. And if you want to be 100% risk averse, then definitely do the fixed plan.
My challenge in all this, and having been an employer that's wrestled with these rates, with these rates, I think we're in as good a spot as we're ever going to be. I again agree with you on that 0.84 is really good, and for us,
Yeah.
especially given the exposures we have here, and the chances of it staying there, not that great. So these things do tend to cycle.
So if you look at my second page, next year we should go down because we'll lose a 50,000 and have a 35. So we should go down just a little. The big year is what our current year of 96 ends up being, because then you'll drop off the 215. You're going to get into the 0.7s unless something catastrophic happens in the next week, because the claims that we have on the books aren't going to skyrocket that up to $200,000. So you're going to probably be next year instead of 0.84, you're going to probably be 0.83 or 0.82. Then you're probably going to drop to 0.78, maybe even as low as 0.76. If you can clear the 215 and the 175, then you're going to get a pretty low experience rate. But that assumes that this year, in the next 8 days, we don't have anything major happen, and next year is better than the 175 that would drop off. So again, it only takes one on a retro to blow you out of the water. I did the 12-year analysis. We are ahead, and basically a retro is a gamble. And if you think you've earned enough in your winnings of gambling, then go to the fixed. Next year, if it looks the same, I will, as easily pick fixed as retro. I mean, this is just my gut, whether my gut's right or wrong, and the other question is, I mean, you're not gambling, but you are gambling. This will come out of our insurance reserve fund. We have adequate monies in there, at least to take one hit. We wouldn't want to take two. So if we took a hit this next year, I would definitely pick fixed the following year. If we didn't and we made an extra 100,000, I'm probably going to go retro again. I mean, that's just how it plays.
I'm going back over this again carefully to try and see what's the best possible net gain at retro,
Well,
given our current rating.
$80,000 bucks. So you'll save 160 and you're risking 200.
I'm ready to make a motion.
I like to look through the retro.
We're going to be split. I'm not willing to take the risk.
And that's fine. We do only one thing for sure. We have to make a recommendation or a decision by next week because we're not going naked come July 1.
Right.
Without it. So you have a week. Jeremy's obviously not here. I'm assuming he'll be here next week when we do the budget adoption for 22-23. And the one bad thing about, say, when we were with CIS, they had a 130 retro. So your upper end exposure wasn't as big. So it was much easier to pick a retro over a fixed. And the discounts that CIS gave wasn't as big as on the fixed as what SAFE does. With SAFE only offering a 170, which they're basically telling you, we don't want you to take it. I mean, they won't offer less. We asked last year and they came back at 1.7. So that's the biggest difference because between the switch from CIS to SAFE. They basically want to know their money's coming in and all that kind of stuff. So that's why it gets a lot harder to make the decision when you have the upper end risk being a lot greater than when it was 130. Because then your savings, potential savings was greater than your potential risk. This way, it's the other way around.
So we go fix this year.
If you go fix this
What
year,
would that do to our retro opportunities next year?
they'll still offer it.
And our numbers will come down.
Our experience rating will come down a little, but our overall payroll is going to go up. Workers' comp is going to go up, especially if we hire a bunch of behavioral health.
It gets right here.
But the 170
save
exposure
80,000.
will stay at 170 or?
Yeah, I don't think they'll offer anything less than 170.
Well, we've got an insurance guy here in room. We can switch our arm.
Yeah, you can
What's
twist.
the influence?
You can twist SAFE now. You can maybe twist CIS in the past, but
CIS was a lot more willing to work on the retro. SAFE would prefer that you're not going that route at all.
that's their indication when you go with a 170.
Well, their actuarials don't play in that 170 game very much. It's just
No, it's all
high
on
risk
us.
category. They don't like that.
It's all on us. So, like I said, if our claims next year are under 130, then we lost out on some savings.
So we're looking at $80,000. So to me, that's not it.
No, I mean, if you have zero claims, your cost of your premium is going to be $80,000, maybe 85. I could go read. Like zero is unrealistic. I mean, if we had one year where it was $7,000 of claims. That's a magical year. That's when we got to the 0.63 in that. So most likely our claims are going to be somewhere in the 80 to 120,000 historically. I think it's 105 average. So if you do that, then you're going to save 40 or 50,000. If you have one bad year, which it only takes one, one of our worst years was when an employee got hit by a car on her brake over in West Salem. That's one of our worst claims. We recovered some of that claim via insurance, but still, you never know. It doesn't even have to be anyone's fault. I mean, you know, it's just bad luck. And you never know.
I'd be willing to change it with fixed because it's not that much money that we're talking about. But I would like to revisit this again next year, which I'm sure we will. But
Okay.
at the same time, cost of insurance, they're always making money. If you have a chance to save some money on insurance, and just the way of life.
You can put it in sprinkler systems and fire alarms and all that kind of stuff and make your building, your property claims liability less likely. But workman's comp, especially in an environment, in my view, in an environment where we have lots of stressors on people, I think our risk does go up. I think that, you know, we're likely to be facing another serious event in the next year or 5. So just based on where we are in all of the employment challenges we have, I just don't think this is a place where we should be gambling. Especially when the payoff versus the cost is as dramatic as it is, doesn't make sense to me.
And I wanted to present it. I mean, I wanted to give you the full picture because it was tough for me to make my decision. I based it more on historical averages and all.
We know how you can go with the rest there, Kenny Rogers, so.
I know.
And I was thinking the same thing. So,
And to be honest, if we go with the fixed, completely understand. If we only have $20,000 worth of claims, it's gonna eat me up because I didn't get the
Yeah.
win.
Now you can go ahead and wag your finger at me.
You may have to buy me lunch.
That'd be fine.
But no, I completely understand. And it is close enough now. And there is a lot more upper end risk, especially with the new safe, how safe is given our quotes. So I completely understand but I was true to the numbers, but God, it was 50-50 to me.
so do we have a motion?
I move that we adopt the standard plan, pay the premium. Fixed.
Any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Do you have a need for an executive session?
No, unless you don't have your lawyer, so it's not easy.
It's right there.
But we don't have a need.
Yeah. I don't need one.
None for me, sir.
Okay. Meeting adjourned.
John.
Do you need me to sign something?
I don't think,